just in case you weren't fully convinced that Gavin Newsom is the shadiest snake of them all, get this. He is vowing to defy the Trump administration if the Trump administration cuts off EV tax credits, and he plans to offer state level rebates. But not for Tesla, the only electric car brand that is realistically worth one hot damn. Gavin says this is to spur more competition in the EV market, but what he really means is that Elon has hurt his little feelings, and now he's trying to once again screw over the people in his state to score Democrat political points. As if Gavin and his Cali Democrat pals haven't run enough companies out of the state, now he wants to go to war with the most popular EV brand in California because Musk supports Trump and Musk has tap danced on Gavin's BS in humiliating fashion. Not only has Gavin driven companies out of the arguably and objectively most beautiful state in the nation, he's driven residents out who either can't afford to live there or can't stomach what the state has turned into. Fifth largest economy in the world, and yet many parts of it look like the third world. You have to try to ruin a state that badly. Joining me now is someone who knows all about it, but she's seen the light. She's a former Silicon Valley Democrat donor and fundraiser who has, like many just like her, had enough of the California and Democrat status quo. Allison Huynh joins me now. Allison, it's great to have you, and I'm so happy to hear that you are seeing through, maybe some of the lies that your state, your leaders have told you. And I have to start, with California first and foremost, because that state is really at the forefront of trying to resist everything the Trump administration wants to do. And I have to get your comment on Gavin Newsom wanting to go to war with Tesla and Elon Musk, really just despite Elon and Donald Trump. What do you make of that?
It's really not fair. Elon helped to create the electric car vehicle industry, and they tried to ban him in the 2021 EV forum. He helped to start like the space exploration industry, and they try to revoke the Starlink FCC license. So it's really not fair that they're punishing the innovators, the creators. Those are the people that should be rewarded in our society.
Every time I see Gavin Newsom, and for the last several years, it's been obvious to me that he's going to run for president. I don't think he wanted to hitch his wagon to whatever 2024 was, because it was an off year for Democrats, to say the least. I think he's certainly going to run in 2028, and that's why he's vowing to fight Donald Trump. He wants to fight deportation. He wants to, he fought Prop 36, for goodness sake, which your state of California said, hey, listen, we don't want these felon coddling policies anymore. We want to get rid of Gascon. We want to get rid of felon coddling. We want to make sure that people actually have consequences for looting and shoplifting. And he was against that. Kamala wouldn't say where she stood on it. But is there a chance that in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a radically different California in a good way? Are people in California maybe starting to change their hearts and minds over the leadership that they've elected time and time again?
That's a really good point, Tommy. 5, 10 years ago, when I walked the streets of San Francisco, you would never hear these conservative values. But I think people have just had enough with San Francisco, the liberal, the Marxist policy. You can only take so much. There are homeless people, there are fentanyl addicts up and down Van Ness. When I was there, it was a beautiful street, and it was fantastic with retail, with shopping, with these open drug fair policies, the open border, open sanctuary cities, just really bad policies all around has made it unlivable for families like myself. We need to put family values first. And it's unclear what are the values of Gavin Newsom, of Kamala Harris. We don't really know. He needs to have vision. What is it that he wants for California? What does he want for the United States? Is it a socialist, Marxist, communist policy and regime? Because if that's the case, then Californians have rejected that, just like they rejected George Gascon, they rejected London Breed, they rejected Mayor Shelton and Pamela Price. We don't like these Marxist policies.
Yeah, and such a beautiful state too. I also want to get your take on a lot of Hollywood elites, celebrities that have decided to leave their mansions in California and go to mansions in Europe. Probably keep their mansions in California too, because they have the luxury of being able to do that. But they want to leave not only California, they want to leave the United States because Donald Trump won the election. It's interesting to me though, Allison, because all of them that I've heard of at least are going to Europe or they're going to Australia. They're going to nations that they seemingly have not advocated to come across our southern border. You know, we've been told that Haiti's a great place to be, Venezuela is great, Honduras is great, Guatemala is great, China is great. All these nations that we're accepting, all the citizens coming across the southern border, all these celebrities are not fleeing to those places. They're fleeing to Europe and they're fleeing to Australia. What do you make of that? And do you think anyone really cares that the celebrities are leaving California?
Another great point, but let me offer this, Tomi. For any celebrity that wants to leave the country, I'll pay for their air flight. And first class, private, whatever they want to go to Venezuela, to go to Honduras. They need to see the conditions of those countries. They need to see the conditions of Mexico City. They need to see these conditions. The thing is that in 2016, Ellen DeGeneres, Amy Schumer, Oprah Winfrey, they threatened to leave the country, and they never did.
They never did, and they continue to make money off the backs of the United States of America and the consumers in the United States of America. But now they want to leave. I don't think anyone cares about Ellen DeGeneres. She was run out long before when it was exposed that she's been a lifelong bully. So people really don't care about her, and I don't think many people put a lot of stake into these actors and these entertainers. If that made a difference, Kamala would have won the election. Instead, she's about $20 million in the hole, and she's vacationing in Hawaii. Joe Biden's leaving for vacation today. I'm really not sure who's running the country. A lot of us would certainly like to know, but you have to tell me a little bit about your story as well. How does somebody go from being an Obama fundraiser, a Democrat donor, somebody that's really in the fight, at least for the old regimes, the Obamas, how do you go from that to saying, hey, this isn't quite right for me, not necessarily being the most MAGA Trump supporter out there, but being somebody who no longer feels like they're a part of the far left or the Democrat Party? How did that happen for you?
So I think there's a great realignment now. The lines that traditionally define Democrats and Republicans have really changed. Myself, I'm not a traditional MAGA type person. Either is Elon Musk. In fact, I think he waited 6 hours in line to shake Obama's hand. I myself own the original Obama Hope Fairy painting that then inspired the poster that hangs in millions of dorm rooms. And so for me personally, I felt that Obama was this great inspiration. He was really going to unite us, that there was no Black America, there's no white America. There was just one United States of America. I was young and impressionable, and I really felt like there was great hope. And as a politician, he brought people together. When he actually got into office, he became very divisive, and it started the identity politics and many of these socialist Marxist policies that we see right now, and it's degrading our society. And we see that every day in San Francisco and in California.
Yeah. Well, DEI has really taken a hit now. There's a lot of major companies that have ditched those initiatives and they want to just move to merit based. It's not about, marginalizing any group of people. It's just about allowing the best and the brightest to rise to the top and about inspiring the potential of people to rise to the top based on their merit. And I think that that's a good thing for everybody involved. There was a time and a place for affirmative action and for quotas, but we've come to a place in the United States of America where the best and the brightest should succeed. And I think that we're maybe trending back in that direction. But you mentioned the Obamas, and I want to get your take a little bit on how hard the Obamas campaigned for Kamala and some of the things that they maybe said to Black men in particular about supporting Kamala, and maybe kind of tried to insinuate, at least, that if Black men weren't voting for Kamala, that they were in some way sexist or misogynist. Do you think that the Obamas put a little bit of a damper on their own legacy by how they campaigned for Kamala?
I think so too. Their brand really is about hope and inspiration. But I do believe that after his first 2 years, he was not able to accomplish what he did. And so he went further down into identity politics and aligned himself with certain groups. And so for me and for many others, he'll be remembered as being able to legalize gay marriages at the national level. So he has a fierce, fierce following with the LGBTQ community and other civil rights group. And I applaud him for that. However, he has now turned into, for lack of a better word, fear-based language in the way that he orates. He's using this fear like, oh, if you're not doing this, you're a racist or you're a misogynistic person. And then this trickles down to his disciples, such as Pete Buttigieg, who goes on air on Fox and other TV shows to say that bridges and highways are racist. This is really not acceptable. This is very divisive language. And this is the reason why, I wanted to vote for, and I did vote for Obama twice. And then because of his change and moved into identity politics and the movement and inspiring the Gates Foundation now are saying that math is racist. How can you say math is racist? If anything, math is the great equalizer. And so we've got to get back to basics, right? With DEI, it's very confusing because God says we're all born equal, Tomi, but equity, DEI, the equity, you have to earn equity. So when you work at a startup in Silicon Valley, every day you accrue equity, the stock option, right? That's not given to you. In our country, you still have to work hard. So we can't equate equity with equality. Yes, we're all born equal, but we all have to work hard. You can't cut in line. You don't get a free payout or paycheck just because you snuck in through the southern border. Everybody has to work, and we can't use fear to govern. We have to inspire people. We have to uplift people. And the lines for politics have changed. The lines that we thought were like Democratic or Republican, Trump has really changed all that. And that's why I started to support Trump.
In California, I know you mentioned fear. Well, there is an area where maybe people in California and people in the United States should be fearful, and that's when it comes to illegal immigration. Now, I'm not saying that the millions of people that have been let in under this Biden regime are all bad people. They're certainly not. A lot just want better opportunities, and I can empathize with that. But we know that there are tens of thousands that are convicted murderers in their home country. We know that there are about 300,000 minors, children in this country that are missing. And we know that there are people like Jose Ibarra who are getting plane tickets provided by the United States taxpayer from New York to Atlanta, where months later he murders a nursing student. So there are big problems. California, obviously the largest illegal immigrant population in the country, resides in California. Gavin Newsom, and then, you've got LA City Council vowing to be a sanctuary city. They're already a sanctuary state. We know that they don't work with ICE. We know how difficult it is to deport known criminal aliens in the state of California, as well as other blue states. But this was really a defining issue in the election, and the majority of the American people support a mass deportation effort, obviously starting with criminal aliens first. Do you think, though, that some of the folks that voted based on immigration, and they really do want to restore border security and integrity, do you think when Tom Homan and Donald Trump start the deportation process, do you think some of the people are going to get cold feet and not like the way that it looks or makes them feel? Because that is my concern.
That's a really good concern, but again, we're going to have to wait and look at the results. Right now in San Francisco, there's a huge homeless and drug problem. And how does immigration feed into that? We're not completely sure, but we do know that a lot of the drug dealers are from Honduras and El Salvador. The drugs themselves the fentanyl is coming from China through the drug cartels in Mexico, and they run it up, and the distribution is through the Honduras. The homeless people are mostly our young people. Some of my friends, some of them very wealthy, middle class, they're addicted and they're dying of fentanyl. And we have adult citizens, U.S. citizens, who are homeless and who are suffering from addiction problem. How does this all feed together? The immigration, the homelessness, the addiction. And we look at Mexico City. I recently was in Mexico City and I was really shocked. They don't have homeless. They don't have open drug fairs in their cities, even though a lot of the drugs are bypassed or coming through Mexico City and the southern Mexican border into the United States. And I was asking a friend of mine who actually a consulate based in Mexico City, and She told me Mexicans and the Mexican government, they put families first, family values first. So when there is someone like a family member that's addicted or homeless, whether it's your first cousin or third cousin, the families come there and they take care of them, and that there's government support for that. And I'm wondering, why don't we have that type of family first in America, in our cities of San Francisco, LA, even now Houston, Austin, my hometown? If there are addicts, if there are homeless, they're US citizens, can we figure out what type of resources we can provide to the families? Can the families be paid to take care of the addicts? Can we have more rehabilitation centers? We need to think about Americans first, our families. How can we promote family values back in the United States instead of catering to the criminals, instead of catering to the drug dealers, of the addicts? We really need to think about our families. How can we provide a structure to take care of our American citizens who may have fallen on hard times?
You're right. The Democrat platform, though, at least for the last many, many years, has not been a family first agenda. In fact, I would argue quite the opposite. It's more in the direction of destroying families and traditional values and unfettered abortions. That's been their loudest battle cry and message. I'm wondering your take as well on Donald Trump threatening the 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico due to the fact that they have been flooding our nation not only with illegal immigrants, but also with fentanyl, as you mentioned. There's a lot of folks in the business community that are clutching their pearls. They think that, oh, that's going to tank our economy. It's going to make our prices go up if we put a tariff on. And, in my opinion, for a time it might be, but I think that we are more valuable to Canada and Mexico than Canada and Mexico are to us. So I think we should be running the board. But I'm wondering, from your perspective, from a business perspective, do you think it's wise for Donald Trump to make those kind of threats? And do you think it'll make a difference?
Well, I think Donald Trump is a brilliant businessman, and the way that he has negotiated with France in the past when they tried to put tariffs on American goods, and he was like, well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to put a 25% or whatever percentage on luxury French wine, on luxury French leather. Well, within 2 minutes, the problem was solved. They removed the tariffs. So I think we need to step back, just have some popcorn, let Donald Trump do his magic. He has great intuition when it comes to negotiation with these world leaders. I really like how he is very curious. He comes in there, he tries to understand them. Even Kim Jong-un, he was not scared to go to North Korea. He went there, he saw the beaches, and he was like, why are you building nuclear weapons when you can be building condominiums? So we need to just step back. We elected him president unanimously and let him do his magic, because in the past it has worked. Under Donald Trump, after 2016, in the 4 years, middle class people, working class people did very well.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That threat of the tariff back during the first Trump administration also worked to get the Mexican military active in protecting and securing their own border, and also helping us to secure ours. So I also think that Mexico doesn't want to be playing with fire here, because we've got millions and millions of people that Mexico let through their border and then up through ours that we could easily plop right back in Mexico. So I'm not sure that they want to play this game with Tom Homan or with Donald Trump. Last thing I do want to talk to you about, though, is kind of more on the social issue side of things. California is obviously a hotbed for this, and this is coming out of California, San Jose State University, and the volleyball controversy. We've got the judge who, failed to issue that injunction. We've got a biologically male volleyball player and many female volleyball players who are finally standing their ground and forfeiting games, and also signing petitions and taking this the legal route, saying this is wrong. It's a violation of Title IX. And I'm wondering how you think this is going to shake out, and if you think maybe even some of the most liberal, socially liberal among us are starting to realize that the trans hijacking of feminism might not have been the best idea.
That's a great point. Look, transgender men playing women's sport, that's so 2022. The American public voted this out. We don't need this, and we just want to get back to normalcy. I have two girls who are in college. One plays ultimate frisbee, the other is a cross-country runner. But when I look at women's volleyball, that game is totally different than men's volleyball. You know what I mean? If you watch men's volleyball, it's a different pace. It's a different game. They're a lot more competitive. It's a lot more athletic. So when you have biological men who have dense, bigger bone, they have stronger muscles, they have more testosterone, so their emotional reflex are a lot faster. It's a different game, Tomi. So why are we having men, biological men, who are so much more advantage when it comes to volleyball, basketball, wrestling, boxing, which is awful, which is like a free license for a man to beat up a woman? That's really not acceptable in our society. It's not practical. It's not pragmatic. It's not moral. Morally, it's wrong. Yes, everyone's born equal and you can be whatever you want, but there are constraints to nature. God gave us some constraints. You're born man, you're born woman, and girls should be girls and boys should be boys, bottom line.
Right. And, I don't understand why the trans community has been given such a pass and such a special category for themselves, and that their feelings and their desires are somehow paramount, and the women that are the majority, they just have to take a seat. It's amazing to me how we got here. But I do think that the country is normalizing and stabilizing, and I do think that we're going to see some big changes. And I think even Democrats, whether they believe what they're saying or not, they are going to have to make some kind of an ideological shift towards the middle, because people are just done with the insanity. You're right. It's so 2020, 21, 22 to be this way, to be woke, to post black squares in the name of George Floyd, and none of that worked. And so I think people are going back to reality, or at least I would hope so. I really appreciate you, Allison, for being so honest, forthright, and transparent. Thank you for joining me today. A very happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and God bless.
Thank you, Tomi.
Thanks. Folks, Donald Trump has vowed to do a lot of things, but he's also vowed to revive the Keystone XL pipeline. And as a South Dakotan, I am so grateful. It's time for Final Thoughts. So let me tell you a little something about the Keystone XL pipeline. On his first day in office, President Joe canceled it for no reason beyond a worthless green virtue signal. His administration even had to quietly admit how costly that virtue signal was. In a congressionally mandated report from the Department of Energy, we see that the pipeline would have created up to 59,000 jobs and would have had a positive economic impact between $3.4 and $9.6 billion. And let's not forget, the cancellation of that pipeline put a dent in our energy independence and helped contribute to rising gas prices. This was all especially infuriating for me, given that pipeline was set to run through my home state of South Dakota, bolstering my state's economy and providing high-paying and reliable jobs for thousands in and around my state. When Joe canceled that pipeline, the people of Phillips, South Dakota were left high, dry, and screwed. And it wasn't just the workers on the actual pipeline project, but small mom-and-pop businesses in the surrounding towns that were counting on those jobs and that revenue to boost their own businesses. Once again, Democrats happily screwed small-town America and flyover country to appease the climate change hypocrites who fly private. But there's good news. Our president-elect Donald J. Trump has reportedly vowed to bring the Keystone XL pipeline back. Now, that won't be easy, given that pipeline's developer, TC Energy, has given up on it thanks to Joe and no longer owns the pipeline system. And also thanks to Joe, portions of that pipeline in both the U.S. and Canada have already been dug up thanks to the executive order out of 2021. But guess what, folks? Where there's a will, there's a way. And if there's one person I trust to do whatever he can to bring back the pipeline and other pipelines and other American energy projects, it's Donald J. Trump. And whether it's Keystone XL or more drilling or fracking or leases for liquid natural gas projects, I know Trump will unleash the full potential of American energy independence. And when he does, the prices of everything, not just gas at your local pump, will go down. There is hope on the horizon, and for the first time in 4 years, that hope is reserved for the American people. And those are my final thoughts. Please be sure to tune in tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Also catch full episodes of this show on Fox Nation whenever you want. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. From Nashville, God bless and take care. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click here and make sure you subscribe here so you never miss a beat. I'll be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.